2. Okay, so this is our introduction to the three constitutions. And as we do this, again, I'm going to be flipping my phone around in a couple of ways so that you can actually see my full screen. This information is meant for your education only, and it's not meant for you to diagnose or prescribe. You are responsible for any results, good or bad, that you get from using this information. Totally up to you how you use it. Just know that I'm not responsible for what happens here. Welcome. I am so glad you are with me. Again, take a moment and say hello. Let me know who you are, where you're from. I love getting to know my audience. And those, I'm going to encourage you to stay with me. It's going to be about 40 minutes today of information. So I encourage you to stay with me through the end. Grab a pencil and paper because there's going to be some really great information coming up. I do encourage you to participate, to ask questions. I will do my best to monitor all the social media that we're tracking on today so that we can actually answer your questions as they come in. All right. I would love to know, first off, just as we begin, what background do you have? Are you a herbalist? Are you a nutritionist? Are you a massage therapist? Do you have iridology training already? I would love to know a little bit about you. That's me. You can see me both on my camera and on that little picture. And I started, again, as studying holistic health in 1979, and I've been a practitioner since 1981. Among all of the nutrition and herbal credentials that I've accumulated over the last 40 years, I've got Master Herbalist, Certified Iridologist, Natural Nutrition Clinical Practitioner, and Comprehensive Certified Iridology Instructor. But I am also the wife of 1, the mom of 7, and the grandma of almost 8. We've got a grandbaby due this week, so almost 8. When I figured out how to truly integrate iridology with my other modalities that I use, I found that it actually helped me to do faster assessments. It helped me to be way more accurate. It helped me to build better rapport faster with my clients. And it eliminated the need for intake forms completely. So I still have my clients sign a release or a waiver form, but I don't have them do a big detailed questionnaire thing. It helps me to integrate everything I know, from herbology to nutrition to flower essences to aromatherapy to energy work and to lifestyle. Iridology is such a blessing in my practice. It helps me to work faster, more effectively, but it also allows me to create that deeper rapport. And as we look today at the 3 constitutions, we are going to see how this can actually be true, how you can have this happen for you. All right, so here we have the lymphatic type, and I should move my camera image. We'll move it down. There we go. Okay, and I want to put this down. Can I aim it up high enough? Yeah, those of you on Instagram, you know, I need to get a better stand for my phone so you can see things better. There we go. Close enough for today. And so here we have a lymphatic eye. Most of you would call it a blue eye, and absolutely it is a blue eye. The lymphatic eyes always have some blue. They always have visible fibers. So as you look at this, can you see the threads in this eye? A true lymphatic eye will always have some fiber visible. There may be other colors, and you can see we've got other colors sitting on top of this eye as well. Those are your key indicators for the lymphatic eye type. The common health concerns with the lymphatic eye type centers on things like their mucous membranes, their acid levels, and their lymphatics. And when we're looking at a lymphatic eye, we never tell the person, you have this problem. We always ask, because their predispositions, they may have learned how to live within their body, and they might be doing so many things right already, that in spite of the eye suggesting they might have problems or they're programmed to have problems with their mucous membranes or their lymphatic system, if they're doing things right, they may not be having those problems. And that's a really important thing for us to recognize, is that the eye is a blueprint. It's not a guarantee. And if the person is doing what they need to do, then they're probably experiencing better health than we would anticipate from their eyes. So when we see a lymphatic eye, we want to ask questions, and we always start the question with, is there a personal or family history of? Because the eyes are genetic. Remember, the eyes are giving us 3 or 4 generations of information. This isn't just about the person we're talking with. It's about the person, parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents. So is there a personal or family history of allergies, arthritis, asthma, eczema, psoriasis, kidney issues? Those are all acid issues, and lymphatic people tend to be a little more prone to acid imbalance, being a little more over acid. And those are the kinds of problems that will surface when someone has an acid situation. We also often see with the lymphatic type a predisposition towards thyroid and parathyroid imbalance. Now, that's not because every lymphatic is going to have a marker in a thyroid reaction field in their eye. It's because these people tend to be more over acid, which means they spend more of their calcium regulating their acid levels, and that leaves less calcium, and that can also create further issues. We just typically see that these people, because of that acid imbalance, because of the mineral imbalances that leads to, they often end up with more thyroid and parathyroid things. So we need to be asking questions, always asking questions. We need to understand how what we are looking at is the foundation of things, and what symptoms what we're looking at can lead to. The image on your screen is, of course, what we think of when we hear blue eye, right? Do you agree with me that that's what we would call a blue eye? Yeah? This, however, is also a lymphatic eye. And as we look at this, you're going, that's not really blue. And you're right, it's not really blue, but it certainly has the markers that we need to have in order to call it blue. So with this iris then, what we see is we see some blue, we see something that is sort of blue. We're not going to call it hard on blue, but it's just sort of blue. We see, and I'm just trying to get things organized. There we go. We see that it's really sort of a steel blue gray. We see lots of fiber, and that means that we can call it lymphatic. It does not need to be entirely blue. It doesn't even need to be predominantly blue. As a matter of fact, we only need a tiny little bit of blue poking through in order for us to call this a lymphatic eye. Is that making sense? Does that make sense for you? We don't need to see a completely blue eye in order for us to call it a blue eye. We just need to see some kind of blue, and in this case, it's a steel blue-gray. We see lots of fiber. That makes this a lymphatic eye. So how could knowing things like this help you coach your clients faster or better in your holistic wellness business? You know, your client comes in and they give you their shopping list. They give you the list of issues that they would like to have help with. And you do things to help them. You know you can. You know you've got suggestions that you can make that will be beneficial. But if they bring in that shopping list of symptoms and you look at their eyes and you then understand their chemistry, what their potential chemistry is, you then understand more of why their body is doing what it's doing. And then you can do a much better job of actually giving them the right kind of advice. Let's see what one of my students has said about how this impacted her business. This is Sharon Bimrose. She's a naturopath from Australia. She said, I've already taken iridology as a part of my studies as a naturopath. However, Judith's course, Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology, surpassed my previous training in structure, content, delivery, documentation, and support. Iridology has certainly reduced the time required for prioritizing a treatment plan. Iridology, without a doubt, has been a huge game changer to my practice. You see, one of the things that we see is that when people first learn iridology, or maybe they only have, I shouldn't say only, maybe they've got nutrition or herbology under their belt, what they often do is they do their intake session with their client, and then they send their client away, and then the practitioner goes and spends anywhere from 2 to 20 hours. I just talked to someone who spends 20 hours creating a program for the client, and those are hours the practitioner didn't get paid for. And then, meets up with the client again to give them their protocol. And that's, you can't earn a living that way. You can't, not unless you're charging like $500 per client, and you see 2 clients, you make $1,000 a week. Well, maybe that works for you, but it's not really the most effective way to do things. So what Sharon told me was that with iridology, because she was doing the iridology the way she was taught originally, she would go and do 2 to 5 hours worth of homework, and then she would email the report to the client. And of course, wasn't getting paid for that part of it either. And what she's learned as we worked together is that she could actually do a relevant iris assessment and hit the keynotes that client needed to know right off the bat in order to actually get the program developed in her session. So just before we get on to the next slides that we're going to look at the next constitutional type, Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology, the next session of the course starts Tuesday, October 1st, 5 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. Now, I've listed the different time zones here on the screen so that if you are in a different place in the world, you can see what time that would be for you. Registration is not yet open. There is a little more information at iridology.education, and registration will be opening next week, Tuesday, August 27th. Let's look at the hematogenic eye type. Oh, and thank you so much for all these waves that people are sending me. I truly appreciate that. I love to know that my viewers are engaged. Here, this is the hematogenic eye type. So this is what you would classically call a brown eye. And in a few minutes, as we go through this, you'll see why we call it a brown eye. This is a true brown eye, and they may have gold in them. That's just fine. Like brown and gold, excellent, works great. No visible fiber. Do you remember the blue eye, the lymphatic eye we looked at just a moment ago? And what we saw in there was lots of fiber radiating out. In this eye, we see no clear fiber. So, and we see no visible blue and no visible green. So what we've got in here is brown and gold and no visible fibers. So these people tend to have more risk of issues with their blood and their lymph. Their blood and their liver. And so we want to be watching their spleen. We want to ask questions about stomach and digestion, circulation and heart, varicose veins. They tend to be a little more alkaline. And so we need to help them with their mineral assimilation, and especially their calcium. Again, that is such an important mineral. And because their minerals tend to be out of balance because of them being alkaline, we need to be watching their endocrine balance and their metabolism, because minerals are critical for those things, right? Here's another example of a lovely hematogenic eye. It's different from the previous eye, but it is still hematogenic. It's got brown and gold, and there are no visible fibers in this eye. And so far, we've learned 2 of the 3 constitutional types. And so I'd love to see a show of hands. Do you think you've got hematogenic eyes? And if you do, great, let's have you raise your hand. And if you think you've got lymphatic eyes, let's have you type lymphatic in the comments. lymphatic or hematogenic. So as you're learning this, I'm just asking you to contemplate that we do have an iridology course coming up, and we've got one more eye type to cover today. In the upcoming course, you will learn beginning to intermediate iridology and sclerology at a level that will prepare you to become certified with IPA if you so choose. You will also learn incorporate basic nutrition and herbology as they relate to iridology. Thank you again for all the waves on Instagram. I really appreciate that. Sorry, I just lost my place here. Yes, I teach from notes because otherwise I forget important things, right? So what this means is that, if you've got beginning to intermediate iridology already under your belt, and you're thinking, oh, I think I should take another course, what you're going to learn in this is what the different iris and pigment colors mean and what all the little marks in the iris means. And so for some of you, that's going to mean you're learning from scratch. For some of you, it's going to mean you need to unlearn some old information and learn some new information. Even just understanding the difference between a blue eye, a true brown eye, and the next one we're going to look at, which a lot of people would call the hazel eye, will give you so much insight as to how your client's body works and the information you need to give them. And I know you'll find that no matter what your iridology background is or isn't, you will benefit if you take this course. The course will also teach you some sclerology, and it's designed to help you be the best clinical iridologist possible. And it's also designed to prepare you to take the IPA certification exam, again, if you choose. Within the course, we also practice developing protocols. So we're going to draw on your nutrition training. We're going to draw on your herb training, whatever training you've got, we're going to pull that in. We do the course over 20 lessons, which are taught via live webinars. And so it's about 40 hours of training. You also get a digital downloadable 200-page textbook and a digital downloadable 40-page set of cheat sheets, plus a digital downloadable iridology map. And I limit my class to no more than 10 students. Some benefits here, things like live webinars. If you like having a live teacher, this is ideal. If you live halfway around the planet, as some of my students do, I'm in Canada and I've got students in the UK and in Australia, all over North America. You can't always get to a course. So having it taught by live webinars is really great. It means that you can ask questions in real time. You're not trying to teach yourself from a book. A 200-page downloadable textbook, most instructors make you purchase the textbook, and the textbooks that they sell typically run $250. 40 pages of cheat sheets. I don't know anyone else who's got cheat sheets. So that's a real ace up your sleeve. And the iridology map, this is a constitutional iridology map, and it's different from any you've ever seen. It actually simplifies doing an iris analysis. This is the lovely Karen Choate. Actually, all my students are lovely. I just adore all of my students. She says, having recently completed the Confident Nutritionist program with Judith Cobb, I can honestly say this is one of the most rewarding, informational, and fun classes I've ever had. I have implemented the techniques and applied extremely crucial and beneficial knowledge and skills that I learned in this class to my own practice with great success. It has truly helped immensely in my decisions and assessments. Thanks to Judith, I am definitely a much more competent nutritionist. Now, Karen came to me as a certified natural health practitioner specializing in natural digestive health. And so she was already well trained. She just needed a way to do her work more efficiently, and that's what we were able to give her. So what is the course worth? Well, I want you to consider for a moment that when you take a course that's 40 hours long, if you have to travel to go to it, you've got 5 or 6 or 7 days off work. you've got your tuition, you've got your travel expenses, airfare or driving, you've got your accommodation and your meals. Depending on where you live and depending on where the course is, that could easily rack up to be over $10,000 to $15,000. Whoops, and I'm not sure why that did that. And so as we look at this, we need to look at really what it's worth, because in here you're getting all kinds of bonuses. The tuition for the course is $23.95. You get recordings of the course, both the actual classes and snippets. So every topic has its own recording. And those are each worth $23.95 as well. And I didn't list them here because I didn't have room. You get the textbook and the Iridology map and the cheat sheets. You get private Facebook group and office hours webinars that go on long beyond when you finish the course. So that's worth $20,000 right now. There, Karen graduated, the lady we just met in the last slide. She graduated 2.5 years ago, and she's certified 2.5 years ago, and she still continues to come to the office hours calls, which is brilliant. That's exactly what they're there for. They're there for students and graduates. Again, oh, here's the recordings of all your completed classes. And you get an IPA student membership, plus I mentor you. I encourage all of my students to do the mentoring that I offer that is geared toward IPA, the IPA exam, even if they're not going to certify with IPA. Do the mentoring. It'll show you how much you know, and it'll show you where you need to maybe perk up a little bit. So the total course is worth over $31,000. And that is so, so important. Within 48 hours of registering and returning your student contract to me, you will be able to log on to your student site, and the student site looks like this. All of your classes are listed down the side. This is your downloadable textbook, full color and all. And so you can log on and you can see the introduction, you can download your textbook, you can download your cheat sheets, and then when we are ready for the next week, you can log into your lesson, and you can see here, each one of these is a video snippet covering just 1 or 2 topics from the lesson. And beyond that, once we've had the class, the recording gets posted to your student site as well. So what is the tuition really? The tuition really is $23.95. And for those of you who are on my email list, within the next week, I'll be offering a fast action discount that will be very, very time limited. And it's only going to be offered to people who are on my email list. So the only way to figure out what that is to go to my website, iridology.education, and when that little pop-up box comes up that says that would you like to receive the Iridology map, opt in. That will add you to my database, and that will get you in on the special little perks that I have for people who register really early. I only have 10 spots in the class, and when they are full, registration will be closed and we will be going to a wait list. And I already have a wait list for this upcoming one, so I know that when I open registration, it will probably have 3 or 4 of the spots filled within the first 2 days. This is the lovely Michelle Davies. And she's also a graduate. She came to me already well certified in Iridology. She'd done Dr. David Pesick's levels 1, 2, and 3 certificates and Dr. Peirce's course in 2012. And she goes on to say, this is the most amazing Iridology course I've taken. Judith's course is top on my list. Judith's Iridology course is very complete as it contains the most accurate Iridology, including sclerology, and most importantly, how to put it all together and make a proper assessment. I feel very confident in my nutrition practice now. That is just lovely, just lovely. And these are common comments. They're not just one-offs. Let's do that third type, shall we? Do you remember what the first 2 types were? If you remember what the first 2 types were, just go ahead and give that to me. We've got a comment online from Harry Wolf. Nice to tune in, hands-free. Oh, lovely. On an 8-hour drive through Farmland, USA. Keep on keeping on. Thank you, Harry. So good to hear from him. Harry was one of my original teachers in constitutional iridology, like years ago, decades ago. All right, so here we have the biliary eye type, the biliary eye type. This is probably the hardest one for most students to grasp, but that's okay because we spend time learning it. When we have the biliary eye type, old school iridologists would say, well, this person needs a ton of cleansing. This person should have blue eyes, that kind of stuff. And we know that's not true now. We know that the biliary eye type is genetically determined and it doesn't require deep cleansing. It just shows us where this person's genetic traits lie and where we may need to offer support. It also tells us what their genetic heritage is. So when we're looking at a biliary eye type, our definers here are there's no blue. See that? There's no blue, but there are fibers. So no blue, fibers, and often these people will have a little bit of a darker color in the middle of the eye. We call that a central heterochromia. There's your big word for dinner table discussion tonight, central heterochromia. Okay, and so these are the two key traits are no blue and visible fibers, but we can sometimes have this central heterochromia. So the questions we want to ask this person are things like, is there a personal or family history of? That's a really important way to phrase your questions. Digestive issues, gallbladder issues, liver issues, pancreas issues. So now that you've seen that biliary eyes can be very dark and similar to hematogenic eyes, can you think of people who you know who maybe have biliary eyes? And I'm going to encourage you to get up close and personal with them and see if their eyes are biliary or if they're actually true hematogenic. The best way to learn iridology once you've got the basic facts is to actually start practicing. Here's another excellent example of a biliary iris. And with this again, we have no blue, we do have visible fibers, and we have that central heterochromia. And so this again is an excellent example of a biliary iris. So questions to ask again focus around the liver, the gallbladder, digestion, and pancreas. Is all of this making good sense? If it is, give me a thumbs up somewhere. All right, so just to recap then, the next go-round of Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology, which is a course that will prepare you to certify with IPA if you so choose. IPA, for those of you who don't know, is the International Iridology Practitioners Association. The next go-round of the course starts Tuesday, October 1st, 5 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. And again, we've got the different time zones for the different locations around the world. There's a little more information at iridology.education, although actual registration will be opening a week from today on August 27th in a live webinar that I will be doing at 5 p.m. that day. And so I hope you will join me for that. And I encourage you to go to iridology.education to get on the mailing list so that you will be apprised of the registration link for the webinar. And thank you so much for being with me today. I really do appreciate it. I hope you have a blessed and wonderful day, and I look forward to seeing you again sometime in the near future. Bye for now.